Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome. I am so glad you are here with me today. Have you ever stopped to think about the incredible engineering of the human body? The way our joints bend, twist, and turn allows us to walk, run, reach, and interact with the world. It's a beautiful symphony of motion. But in the world of medicine and therapy, how do we actually measure that motion? How do we know if a joint is moving as much as it should be, or if it's improving after an injury? Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on a fundamental tool that helps us answer those very questions. We are going to explore the simple, elegant science of goniometry. So, what exactly is goniometry? It sounds like a big, complicated word, but I promise you it's much simpler than it seems. The name itself gives us a clue. It comes from two Greek words, gonio, which means angle, and metron, which means measurement. Simply put, goniometry is the measurement of joint angles. It's how we objectively measure and write down the range of motion or ROM of a specific joint in the body. For a therapist to do this correctly, they need a solid understanding of how our joints are built and how they move. But the process itself is wonderfully straightforward. The instrument we use for this is called a goniometer. The most common type, which you will see in almost any clinic, is the universal goniometer. It has three main parts and each one has a very specific job. First, there's the body. Think of it like the protractor you used in school. It's a half circle or sometimes a full circle marked with degrees from 0 to 180 or 0 to 360. This is where we read the final measurement. In the very center of the body is a little screw or pivot point. This is called the fulcrum or the axis. It holds the two arms of the goniometer together and allows them to move. This is the most important part because we place the fulcrum directly over the center of the joint we are measuring. Attached to the body are two arms. The first is the stable arm, which is also sometimes called the stationary arm. This arm doesn't move. We line it up with the part of the body that is not moving, the segment that is closer to the center of your body. The second arm is the movable arm. This arm does exactly what its name says. It moves. As the joint bends or straightens, we move this arm along with it, aligning it with the moving body part. The number the movable arm points to on the body is our measurement. Isn't that elegant? Now, while the universal goniometer is the star of the show, there are a few other specialized types worth mentioning. There's the gravity-dependent goniometer or inclinometer. This one is really clever. It has a little fluid-filled chamber with an air bubble inside, almost exactly like a carpenter's level. It uses gravity to tell us the angle, and it's often used for things like measuring the tilt of the pelvis. There are also pendulum goniometers, which use a little weight that always points down towards the earth, and even high-tech electrogoniometers that give us continuous dynamic measurements, though those are mostly used in research settings. So how do we actually perform a measurement? The principle is always the same, and it's all about precision and comfort. First, the patient needs to be in a stable and relaxed position, one that allows the joint to move through its full range without anything getting in the way. We always start the measurement from the 0 degree or neutral position. Next, the therapist carefully places the fulcrum of the goniometer right over the joint's natural axis of rotation. The stable arm is aligned with the non-moving part of the limb, and the movable arm is aligned with the part that will be moving. Then the therapist will either gently move the patient's limb, which we call passive range of motion, or ask the patient to move it themselves, which is active range of motion. As the joint moves, the movable arm glides with it, and we record the final angle. We also make sure to choose the right size goniometer for the job, a large one for a big joint like the knee, and a small one for a delicate joint in the finger. Now you might be wondering what can affect how much a joint can move. It's a wonderful question, and there are several key factors that can influence a person's range of motion. Things like soft tissue tightness can play a big role. If muscles, ligaments, or the joint capsule itself are tight, perhaps from an injury or a condition like arthritis, it can restrict movement. Sometimes, if a joint isn't moved for a long time, scar tissue or adhesions can form, physically blocking the joint. Pain and inflammation from a recent injury can also cause someone to limit their own movement. Even something like muscle bulk can have an effect. For example, a bodybuilder with very large biceps might not be able to fully bend their elbow simply because their own muscle gets in the way. Interestingly, factors like sex and age also play a part. In general, females tend to have a bit more flexibility than males, and our range of motion changes throughout our lives. It's typically greatest when we're infants, then it decreases a bit in adulthood, and can sometimes increase again in old age if muscle tone lessens. Finally, the health of our nervous system is incredibly important. Certain conditions affecting the brain and spinal cord can cause muscles to become very stiff and tight, reducing motion. Other conditions can cause muscles to become very loose and floppy, which can lead to too much motion. Now, for the fun part, let's walk through how we would measure some of our major joints. It's like a little dance between the therapist, the goniometer, and the body. Let's start with the shoulder. To measure flexion, or how you lift your arm forward, you'd lie on your back. We'd place the axis on the top of your arm bone, align the stable arm with your torso, and follow your arm with the movable arm as you lift it up. For the elbow, to measure how far you can bend it, you'd again be lying down. The axis goes on the outer bony part of your elbow, the stable arm along your upper arm, and the movable arm follows your forearm as it bends toward your shoulder. Moving to the wrist, we can measure it bending up and down, and also side to side. For this, you'd typically be sitting with your forearm resting on a table. For flexion and extension, the axis is placed on the side of the wrist, with the movable arm following the line of your little finger. What about the hip? To measure flexion here, you'd be on your back. We place the axis on the bony point on the side of your hip, called the greater trochanter. The stable arm points up along your trunk, and the movable arm follows your thigh as you bring your knee towards your chest. For the knee, we often measure it with you lying on your stomach. The axis is placed on the side of the knee joint, the stable arm along the thigh, and the movable arm follows your lower leg as you bend your knee, bringing your heel towards the ceiling. And finally, the ankle. To measure pointing your toes up and down, you might be sitting with your legs hanging. We place the axis on the inner bony bump of your ankle, the medial malleolus. The stable arm is aligned with your lower leg, and the movable arm stays parallel to the sole of your foot as you move. Each joint and each movement has its own special placement, but as you can see, the core principle is always the same. Find the axis, set the stable arm, and follow the motion. So to bring it all together, goniometry is the simple and effective science of measuring the angles of our joints. We use a wonderful tool called a goniometer, which has a body, a central axis, and two arms. By carefully placing this tool, we can get an accurate, objective number that tells us exactly how a joint is moving. It's an essential skill in therapy that helps us track progress and understand the beautiful, complex mechanics of the human body. I hope you found this little journey into the world of goniometry as fascinating as I do. It truly is a perfect example of how simple principles can give us profound insights. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Do you have any questions? Or perhaps you've had your own range of motion measured before? Don't be shy. Let's chat about it in the comments below. It was a pleasure sharing this with you today.